Hello, everyone, and welcome to the new episode of Beyond Mirage. Today, we have with us Paulami Patel, ma'am, who is an electrocution survivor and perhaps the most strongest and the resilient person you will ever meet. Welcome, ma'am, to the podcast and web series of Beyond Mirage.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Jay.
Ma'am, your story has inspired me a lot. And can you tell us at the age of 12 what happened with you which changed your life completely?
Yes. Hello, everyone. I am Paulmi Patel. I'm a Mumbai resident. Today, I'll be sharing my story, which goes back 19 years ago. I was 12 years old, and any young student, so my sixth standard had just ended, and my summer vacations had begun. So, as a any young student, I was also eagerly waiting to spend my summer vacations. My entire extended family stays in Hyderabad. So actually, it was an annual ritual for me to go to Hyderabad every year and spend my time with my family and my cousins. I had a lot of cousins, so it was always a fun trip to look forward to. So the same thing happened. My tickets were out, and I was visiting Hyderabad. I was in Hyderabad, and we were all playing. All of us cousins, we were playing on the balcony, and what we did was we took a wooden rod and we attached a small bucket to it, and we pretended as if we are fishing from the balcony. So we made a made believe rod, fishing rod out of it. And while playing, there were many live wires outside. And this, I'm talking about a second floor house, a residential house in a residential complex. And there were many live wires running outside the balcony. So much to an IVT, we didn't understand, and we were in ourselves playing, and suddenly the rod slipped off my hand and it went on the wire. And earlier I thought that's a normal clothesline passing, because once you have a glance at it, you don't actually distinguish the wires or the live wires. So the rod slipped off my hand and it went on the wire, and I went to catch hold of it. The minute I did that, I accidentally touched the live wire. And then I realized that it actually was a 11,000 voltage high tension electricity live wire running. And I was completely electrocuted. I caught the wire from my right hand and I was unconscious immediately. I have no memory whatsoever of that particular moment. My right hand got stuck to the wire so bad that it almost melted, because I could not leave it. Because of the earthing, I could not leave the wire. What happened is, by God's grace, there were light showers that day. So there was a little fluctuation in the electricity. So we got to know the electricity went off for a microsecond, and that's how I could just leave my hand, and I was just thrown back in the house. Then my aunt and uncle, I screamed. I was bleeding profusely. My relatives, my aunt and uncle, they rushed to me, just saw me bleeding in a pool of blood. They immediately rushed me to the hospital, and there I was declared with 80% of burns all over my body, and I was immediately rushed to the ICU. The worst part was that my parents were not with me. So when I had taken this trip alone, and it was actually the time for me to go back to Bombay. And so my uncle, in a very distressed state, he called up my father and he said that, listen, something like this has happened. He didn't give all the details, but he's like, you please rush to Hyderabad. My parents were in a disbelief, because they were thinking that, क्या जरूरत है, वो छोटी बच्ची है, शायद उसको थोड़ा सी करंट लग गया होगा और मम्मी पापा को याद कर रही है, तो अभी क्या जरूरत है जाने की. नहीं नहीं, they were not ready to actually understand the gravity of the situation. And more so, they said कि कोई जरूरत नहीं, वो याद कर रही होगी, इसके लिए इतना बुला रहे, कोई बात नहीं. After few more calls, my father understood there is something more than that. They rushed to Hyderabad, and that's when they first saw me, uh, my treatment going on in the ICU. It was a complete moment of sadness in the family, because everyone was really shocked that something like this has happened. Um, Upon examining me, the thing was, the doctor said that actually I had caught hold the wire from my right hand, and a pattern was made in my body. So the electric current went from my right hand and it went out from my left leg. That is what they said. So that's why today, even today, the grievous parts of my body are my right hand and my left leg. My treatment went on. I was shifted to the burns ward. I was completely wounded. There were open scars. The skin was burnt. There was no flesh left in my left and my right hand. My left leg was completely burnt. So the problem was that as days were passing, gangrene was spreading in my right hand. Now that's a condition where the blood doesn't reach to the muscles and the tissues. So that's why it's very fatal if you don't act upon it. So a team of doctors were called in from Mumbai, and there was a huge discussion that happened, and a decision was made, of course, after my family's consent, that my right hand had to be amputated just to save me. So that was the only way out they could see. So exactly after a week from the incident, my right hand was amputated, and post that, my treatment, I think, somehow went on for 2 months in Hyderabad. Like, I was just in the hospital. I was in the burns ward, and all my treatments were going on, everything. After 2 months, I was shifted back to Mumbai in an air ambulance, and I was immediately rushed again to a Mumbai hospital where my further course of treatment was continuing. Now that my right hand was amputated, the entire focus shifted on my left hand. My left hand was completely, again, very, very grievously injured. There were my fingers were, if you still can see, my fingers were all melted. They were all bent, and there was no flesh or no tendons left for them to even operate further. So then they started with the reconstructive and constructive surgeries on my left hand, because their only focus was that now we need to save the left hand and make it workable as much as we can.
Right.
It was almost, I can say, again, 6 months in the hospital, in and out, where many, many different type of surgeries took place. One of the surgeries, the main surgery, was that since there was nothing left on my left hand, they needed some flesh for them to operate upon. So what they did was they stuck my left hand to my abdomen, and they stitched it, and they kept it like that for 1.5 months. So I was bedridden, and this is the only position I had, like my hand getting stitched to my abdomen. That's how it had to be, because for the flesh to keep passing onto the left hand, so then they could operate further. So that was a little tough time, because there was no movement, nothing. I was just I was bedridden. I was completely dependent on my parents, my mother more so. There was nothing more I could do unless, just call her for everything I need, and she was at my beck and call, literally every second. My next surgery was that since they had the flesh, then now the main issue was the fingers were all bent, so they had to straighten the fingers. So what they did was they put in a steel structure, and they straightened my fingers, and they let it be again for another 6 weeks. So my fingers were straightened little bit, and that's how. So there was these one, step by step. There have been more than 50 surgeries I have gone through, and been in the hospital for more than, I think, in a span of 1 year, I can say that there have been more than 50 surgeries. My entire focus when this happened, I was completely distressed. I mean, I was just thinking, like, what is wrong with me? I want to go back to school. I want to be with my friends. And here I am in and out of the hospital, not knowing anything that's happened. And because of my age, it was so tender. My parents were also, they were a little hesitant to tell me the entire truth. So they would change my mind, focus my attention. I remember even back in hospital. So when I was shifted back, I have a huge family, come from very affluent Gujarati family. So there are too many people and relatives who want to see me and who wanted to visit me. So they were all visiting me. And you know how people can be sometimes, they say things that they don't actually mean it, but it just comes out. And they said कि नहीं, ओहो ये तो अभी इसकी तो लाइफ खत्म हो गई है, इतनी छोटी उम्र में ऐसे हो गया, लड़की तो अभी गई, इसका तो मतलब अभी तो लाइफ में हमको लगता है खत्म ही हो गया है. And then they would ask questions like, हमको हाथ देखना है, कहाँ से कटा है, जरा प्लीज दिखाओ. So things like that, where my parents, where they were trying to get me out of this, and ensure that I don't go much deeper into it and I don't take it very negatively, they were very upset. They said that no, not done. I mean, our focus should be to make this child a very uh, positive child and not get deeper into the wounds that have been created. So my father, so there's a small rule that my father had. I remember my parents had kept at the hospital that whoever comes, please come and visit her, no problem. But whoever comes to visit her, y'all can't say anything negative. Y'all have to say one joke to her, and she will say one joke to y'all in return. And let it be a very happy and a joyous time for her. Even though it's like a 1 hour visiting time, don't make it a very, very sad time. That one thing really, really changed me completely. I remember I used to look forward to those times, because then there was jokes and there was fun. And for a 12-year-old, it was a very different atmosphere that they had created. And the best part was that when my doctor got to know, he also started adapting to this rule. So whenever he would come and see me, he's like, "Oh, call me, wait, first let me tell you a joke, then I will see you." So it was a very fun time, and it's all because of my parents. I think the way they have stood by me and the way they have created this, they've made me so positive. They changed my outlook completely. Uh, it was a very difficult time. I mean, the surgeries were never ending. The For every small thing, the dressings and the doctor visits. I mean, at one point of time, I really was fed up and I really wanted to join school, but I had to go on with the surgeries, and then there were flap grafting, then there was skin grafting, then there was no sensation in my left hand. So what they did was there was an 11-hour surgery that was done. They removed a 14-inch sensory nerve from my foot, and they placed it inside my left hand. And now I have sensation. I can understand hot and cold, which I couldn't do earlier. So things like that, they had to go literally step by step into making my hand as much as they can as before.
Right.
So
So,
things
as
were tough.
yeah, and as you said, more than 50 surgeries in less than a year. So, what now taking the conversation to more at a mental level, like what kind of thoughts were going inside your mind at that point of time when you were actually experiencing so much things outside you?
Um, I honestly, when I did not know exactly what has happened. I kept asking my parents one thing. I'm like, Mama, what is wrong? What has happened? And then when I remember I still remember very clearly the day when my amputation took place. My surgery had been done. I was in the recovery room, and I was still gaining consciousness from the surgery. And I remember there was something, different I was feeling in my right hand. They'd all bandaged it, and they had covered it. And I kept asking Mama that, Mama, there's something not right. I want to see my right hand, and she refused. She just stood there crying, not knowing how to react or what to say. And I remember I'm like, no, Mama, let me see what is wrong. And when I saw it, that moment was completely, I was in shock. And I said, what is, Mama, where is my hand? And then I had these questions like, Mama, when will my hand grow back? When will the bones come? When will I have my fingers? I want to write. I want to go back to school. So at that point of time, my mental state was, more like, what am I doing here? Why am I here? I want to be back in Bombay with my friends. My school is about to start. So those thoughts were actually because I was too naive to understand that, this is something so magnanimous that has happened. But I think all thanks to my family members and my parents who actually were my support system at that time, and they really helped me in this. Yeah, the worst part was actually, when I rejoined school. So, in school you have a set of friends who are with you since nursery. That's like a comfort zone. So when I went back, I was excited to meet my friends. They were excited because it was a long gap. I had not seen them. I rejoined school almost after 8 months. So that time was really good because they gave me so much of love and comfort, and I could be myself, without even thinking anything. So the school time was, somehow it went by. I gave my 10th standard. I passed 10th. The most difficult part was college, because when I entered college, it was a totally new set of people, new teachers who don't know that, I have gone through this. So there were these very weird stares and questions that, oh, uska dekh haath dekh, iska nakli haath hai. Because by then I had got a prosthetic arm, which is a
Hmm.
false arm.
Hmm.
I got that, uh, I think one post, I think 8 to 10 months after the surgery, after the incident, I had got my hand,
Okay.
and I'd gotten used to it, and I started practicing writing with it. So it took me more than a month. I used to practice writing with my prosthetic arm, and after uh, I think ninth standard exams, I started giving myself. I started writing, and then I was very comfortable in wearing. So I had these questions in back in college that nahi nahi iska haath ek, they used to gossip around each other, and so that was a very very different time. So I was not expecting that, because I thought, oh, jo jaise school mein tha वही comfort आगे भी मिलेगा, but नहीं, I was mistaken. As you meet new people, and since there's no awareness here, so they didn't know how to react or what to say. But luckily, I developed a good set of friends. But it took time for me to actually adjust. There was a time when I shut myself and I said that nahi mama meko nahi jana hai, because I used to walk on the road also, and then there were these very weird questions, and the way they used to stare at me, thinking that I'm some outsider. So that was a very difficult time. That's when that time was really tough, even mentally. Somehow my mom convinced me to rejoining college, and that's what I did.
Yep. So, as you said, yes, definitely the time was very difficult. And when people actually make you feel that you are someone different and you don't get that comfort zone, it's actually very difficult to accept ourselves as who we are. And that actually creates a problem at our mental level. And then we think that, what am I
Yeah,
doing here? And what will I do in future? But
exactly.
at that point of time, what you tell yourself and what the positive environment around you, in your case your parents, tell yourself makes a lot of difference. So what were the affirmations that you used internally, or say what did your parents tell you or create that kind of environment that kept you going? Or in the other words, if I could say that, how did you build that strong personality or the resilient personality, that whatever has happened, but I need to keep going on?
So what was happening was that, since the time of this incident, my parents really started acting as if there's nothing wrong. So, uh, sometimes when you over pamper or you over condole someone that कोई बात नहीं, आप घड़ी घड़ी बोलते रहोगे, तो सामने वाले को भी लगेगा कि हाँ कुछ तो गलत है, इसलिए मेरे को इतना condolences मिल रहा है, and
Right.
their mindset becomes like that. But they all started acting very normal, as if there's nothing wrong, and then I've not gone through anything. So the routine life immediately started. They started making me independent. So if I remember, I was totally dependent, totally, because I was bedridden, I could not do anything. And that was the one point, which I really did not like, because I've been a very independent person since my childhood. Everything I want to do by myself. So, and then coming to a point where everything I have to wait for someone for them to do for me was really challenging, and that is something I did not like. Um, so slowly I wanted to come out of that, and they also started making an atmosphere. तो सब मेरे से करवाते थे कि नहीं, तू चम्मच पकड़ना शुरू कर, तू ग्लास पकड़, start wearing clothes on your own. So धीरे धीरे, like how you teach a baby, so that route was started, and they acted completely normal. Okay, this is what it is, we have to live with this lifelong. There, what is the point of keep on crying over it? We need to, be so strong and move on. I think that really changed me, because the transition from something so huge to getting back into normalcy was really, I think somehow it helped me mentally, because I started thinking, okay, fine, now this is what it is. I have to deal my life uh, like this now. So okay, even if I don't have a right hand, it's fine. I'll start doing things. I'll start adapting using my right hand and doing things.
Right. So the faster you accept things, the better it starts going,
Yeah,
basically. So
absolutely.
yeah, that's true. And I believe that people who have gone through such kind of situations in their life at the early age, and who have been through a lot of things and have developed that strong and resilient personality from within, uh, the universe expects them to do something big in life, or say they have got their purpose in life. Because I was going through many inspirational stories about them, and I feel that yes, they have developed that kind of resilience, they have developed that kind of creativity, they have developed that kind of habits in them, and now they are doing something big and they are serving their purpose over here. So have you got your purpose, your calling, and whatever we say it is?
Yeah, to be very honest, I am really happy. I don't, yes, there are many things that, I feel upset about, that, I had to go through this because it was not easy. My life is still not easy, to be very honest. But this incident really helped me be very, very positive, and it made me so strong that now I know how to deal with these situations. I think if this had not happened to me, maybe I would not be as brave or as strong I am, and I would have been very upset even at the smallest of situations. So that's one thing that really helped me, and it changed me completely, instilling the whole uh, positive and moving on point in my life. Um, Absolutely. I mean, when you talk about the purpose in life, yeah, I mean, I remember, that I still keep these mini goals for myself. That even today, there are so many things I can't do. I can't tie my hair. I can't wear I can't button jeans, or I can't button shirt. My grip is very less, but I still, practice and practice, and I want to do everything in the end that any person can. So, and now I even have a daughter who is a year old. I think she's also, this is what I want to instill in her as well, that, life is going to be very difficult. Life is going to keep throwing you. It's not going to be rosy. I was leading a very beautiful life. I was 12 years old, and suddenly one moment changed my life completely. So I believe anything can happen in life. Anything. All we need to do is we need to be very strong, and we need to be prepared for any odds. I think that is what I want to instill in my daughter, and I want to even share my story with many people, as a hope that maybe I can inspire, or maybe my story can inspire someone, and I would be very happy if I do that. So yeah, my purpose has, this is what it is.
Definitely, and definitely your story is very inspirational, because I personally
Thank you.
believe that if one person in the entire on the entire planet is doing something and going through something, and if you are in a similar situation, if you want to achieve the same thing that that person is doing, then you also can do it,
Yeah,
because they are doing it right now. सो कोई एक भी अगर कर सकता है इंसान, तो हम भी कर सकते हैं. दैट इज द मेन मोटो आई ऑल्सो बिलीव इन.
correct, correct.
And yes, and final message that you would like to give to all our listeners, viewers, and the youth who is actually listening and watching this episode.
Firstly, be safe. That is my one thing. I was just, it's very unfortunate that I was in a, something like this happened in a house, and you don't expect these things to happen in a residential complex or a house, because so these high tension live wires, you don't expect. So my point is that, everyone needs to be safe as much as you all can, and don't go into overconfidence. I think because it's not easy to lead a life like this. It's not, to be very honest. I mean, I still feel angry that something without my I did not expect, I did not know, and something like this happened. It was totally difficult. Secondly, life is going to be difficult, but my advice would be never give up. Never give up. I think according to me, everyone has the strength and the willpower. Everyone has it, but to open that at the right time, and to be, to be so mentally strong and to deal with situations, everyone has the ability, but very few people actually open it. So be very strong and be very very open to whatever happens. I mean, okay, आज कुछ हुआ है मेरे साथ, मैं भी रो सकती थी उसके ऊपर, और मैं भी सोच सकती थी क्यों हुआ ये मेरे साथ ही होना था. I would have easily shut myself in my house and thinking that okay fine, I'm going to be leading my life like this, developing a cocoon and staying inside and not actually facing anyone. That would have been an easy route, right? Because parents तो है ही, तो support तो मिलता ही. But no, I pushed myself and I said that no, I need to go out in the open and I need to face, and I need to make the most of because this is my life now. Instead of crying over the things that I've lost, let me celebrate the things that I have, and let me live my life fullest. आज I don't have a right hand, but I make sure that I enjoy my life thoroughly and I don't restrict myself into doing things that I can't.
So I'll give you a small example. When I started college and I saw all my friends and all of them, they are driving cars. And that's when it hit me. I'm like, even I want to drive. I mean, why can't I do that? So my parents have been really, really supportive, and they never said no for anything, and they've always said that, "Nahin, you can do everything. There's nothing that, so they've always instilled that positivity." For the first time, there was a small, my father said that, I said, I want to drive. So my father said, okay, he just like, he was hesitant, because he's like, beta, drive. He was just, so I really thought, I'm like, why is he hesitant? Why can't I do? I made sure I researched upon the cars, and I researched upon, okay, how are disabled, what is a disability eligibility for driving. Then I found out much information. I went to the Handicapped Institute. I gave an eligibility test, and they checked my grip. They checked how much percentage of burns am I. So they have this entire setup wherein actually they check the how your grip is and how can you hold the steering wheel. Everything I did. I got the eligibility certificate. But only with the condition that I can drive automatic cars. I went to a motor training school. I enrolled myself. I learned driving. It took me about 4 to 5 weeks. I did that. I used to drive every day, small distance. I gained the confidence. It took me, I think, almost more than a month post that to gain the confidence. And then I applied for a license. I went for a test. I got a license. That was I think I loved that day, because I was like, no, I can do it. And I drive now. I drive to work every day with a valid driving license. So this is what I'm saying, that never give up. If I can do these things, I mean, and I've been so adventurous. I have done bungee jumping. I have done skydiving. I have done almost every water sport, adventure sports. I love doing all of these things. So my point is that, don't stop your life. If something is not going your way, it's fine. Try to hunt for the things that are actually in your you are good at, or you can do, instead of crying over the things that you've lost. So life is really going to be tough, no doubt about it, but we need to make the most of it. And we can only do that when we accept our situation. This is what it is. I don't have a right hand. Okay, fine, I've accepted it. So, and now I'm going to lead my life like this. It's absolutely okay. I understand initially it will be tough. It was tough for me as well, but we all shouldn't lose hope. I think आज बहुत लोग दुखी हो जाते हैं छोटी छोटी चीजों पर. आई थिंक वो एक मेरा एक मैसेज है, नेवर एवर गिव अप, प्लीज work hard. I think hard work always pays off. I have really worked hard, when I was young, to actually reach a stage like this, to be able to do everything. So hard work really pays. And mainly, most important, please be positive in life, and please hold on to that willpower. I think these are the things that will really get you on, and you will see a bright shining sun at the end of the day.
Awesome. That's the most powerful message, I would say, to everyone out here. And I hope that the people who have listened to our conversation or have watched this episode will definitely gain inspiration from your story and will never lose
Thanks.
hope.
I really hope so. I
I
really hope that my story brings um, the even the slightest of inspiration or motivation if I can. Because in the end, I just say one thing, that if I can do it with 1.5 hands, then what excuse do you have? So yeah, thank you so much for having me, Jay. It was lovely talking to you.
Same here, ma'am. Same here. Thank you so much for joining.
Thank you.